Hey everyone, and welcome to Linguist Rising. If you're a new language teacher or even just thinking about becoming one, you probably have this incredible picture in your mind of what it's going to be like. You know, that amazing classroom, students totally hooked, and you're making a real difference. But the path to becoming that teacher, it's often a whole lot more complicated than we expect. So today, we're diving deep into that journey, the challenging but totally rewarding process of forging your professional identity.
This question right here, this is the heart of it all. That gap between our ideals and the everyday reality of teaching, it's something pretty much every new educator goes through. There's even a name for it, reality shock. It's that jarring feeling when all the challenges of the job come face to face with our expectations. And believe me, that shock is a powerful force in shaping who we become in the classroom.
So to really get a handle on this, we're going to look at some fascinating new research. A 2024 study by Tosh Demir and Safaroglu decided to explore this exact thing. They interviewed 3 early career English teachers over in Turkey, giving us this really intimate look at their struggles, their growth, and everything in between. So let's meet them, Asi, Hilal, and Onur. These are the real people at the center of this study, and they weren't in easy situations. They are working in crowded schools, often with pretty limited resources. Their experiences are just this incredible window into the universal challenges that come with starting a teaching career. Now, before we really dive into their stories, we need to wrap our heads around a core concept that's central to this research. It's called language teacher identity, or LTI for short. So what on earth is language teacher identity? Well, it is definitely not some static label you just slap on. The research describes it as a teacher's dynamic sense of self. Think of it less like a final destination and more like a conversation that's always happening, a conversation you're having with yourself, your students, your colleagues, and the whole world around you. It's something you're constantly building and rebuilding. So let's break that down. LTI is, first of all, dynamic. The teacher you are today, probably not the teacher you'll be in 5 years, and that's okay. It's socially constructed. It's built through all your interactions. And this is the big one. It involves this constant back and forth, this negotiation between your ideal self, the teacher you've always dreamed of being, and your actual self in the classroom right now. That tension, it isn't a sign you're failing. It's actually the engine that drives your professional growth. And what this study found was that this negotiation, this tension, wasn't just random. It consistently popped up in 4 key areas of these teachers' professional lives. You could almost think of these as the battlegrounds where a new teacher's identity is truly forged. First up, your most fundamental role. Who are you, really? Are you the subject matter expert, a facilitator, a mentor, a caregiver, or as one teacher really worried, are you just an English language presenter? Not knowing your core purpose can be, well, deeply unsettling. Wow. Onur's words here just perfectly capture that raw, stressful feeling of walking into a new school and having no idea what your place is. It's this profound sense of being lost, and it really highlights that tension between the confident professional you want to be and the novice who just feels adrift. Okay, this next one. This tension hits language teachers especially hard. It's that deep-seated insecurity about your own command of the language you're supposed to be teaching. That feeling of just not being good enough is so common. Isa's quote here is just heartbreakingly relatable, especially for non-native speaking teachers. This immense internal pressure to be this perfect, native-like model of the language creates a huge conflict. The tension is between the very real and often excellent skills a teacher has and this impossible, flawless ideal they're holding themselves to. The third area of tension comes from the outside. It's the system itself. This is that classic clash between all the amazing student-centered methods you learned about in your training and the harsh reality of, say, huge class sizes, a rigid curriculum, or textbooks that feel like they're from another century. I mean, Issei just nails it here, doesn't she? How are you supposed to use communicative activities or give personalized feedback when you're looking out at 45 different students, each with their own unique needs? This tension is that conflict between your professional knowledge of what should work and a school reality that makes it feel absolutely impossible. And finally, teaching is not a solo sport, right? The fourth tension is a social one. It's the struggle to navigate relationships with your colleagues, your bosses, your mentors. Instead of finding this welcoming, supportive community, a lot of new teachers just feel totally isolated and on their own. Honor's reflection here really points to a systemic failure. New teachers are just thrown into the deep end without a map or a guide, and that creates this painful tension between the deep need for community and mentorship and the reality of just feeling professionally isolated and confused. So, faced with all these pressures, what did these teachers actually do? Well, this is where the study gets really inspiring. They didn't just sit back and accept these tensions. They actively came up with strategies to navigate them. And in doing so, they started to build their identities. The researchers found 3 key coping strategies that Is, Hilal, and Honor all used to manage this stuff. And these weren't about making the struggle disappear. They were about reframing it in a way that felt empowering. First, they leaned hard on their core values. Esso had this realization that her deeper mission wasn't just to teach English grammar points, but to educate children as whole human beings. By anchoring herself to that bigger why, the day-to-day frustrations with the curriculum or class size started to feel a lot more manageable. Second, they practiced what you might call a form of radical acceptance. Now, Hilal's statement here isn't one of defeat, it's one of clarity. By acknowledging that some things, like those giant class sizes, were just beyond their individual control, they could stop blaming themselves. They could focus their precious energy on the things they could actually influence. And third, and this is so important, they adopted a powerful growth mindset. Honor's perspective here is just key. He saw his current challenges not as some permanent state of failure, but as a temporary phase. This belief that he was on a journey, that he was always learning and getting better, is what allowed him to push through the really tough moments. So what does this all mean for you, for us? I think the big takeaway from this research is that becoming a teacher isn't about arriving at some perfect, problem-free identity. It's all about the journey itself. The goal isn't to get rid of tension. In fact, the tension is where all the learning happens. It's about taking those conflicts, the ideal versus the real, the personal versus the professional, and weaving them into a stronger, more authentic, and way more resilient teacher identity. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. The stories of Ise, Hilal, and Onur show us that reflecting on our struggles is absolutely the key to growth. So think about the tensions you face, or maybe the ones you're worried you will face. How can you use your values, an acceptance of what you can't change, and a vision for your own growth to forge the unique, amazing, impactful teacher that you're meant to be?